Hello, everyone, and welcome to yet another episode of CampusCare EdTalks. EdTalks is a platform where educators and leaders come on board and express their viewpoints to education and society. Our topic for the discussion is the ever changing dynamics of education, and to express their viewpoints on the same, we have with us Mrs. Sneha Rai, Principal of Freedom International School, Bangalore. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. We are glad to have you here.
Good evening, Sakshi, and thank you. It's a pleasure to be here once again. A very warm welcome, a good evening to everyone out there. Can you hear me clearly?
Absolutely, ma'am. Absolutely. To start off with the session, ma'am, I would like to, come up with the very first question of the evening is education is an ever evolving concept, but how significantly has it changed in the past decade?
Like you said, the first part of your question that education is an ever evolving concept. No doubt that, that is definitely holds true. One important thing I think is not just the past decade. If you see, there has been a lot of focus on education, and people have been studying different styles, how to improve. I mean, right from Albert Einstein to the various generations that we've had. So there's been a lot of talk about how to better our system, but nothing like the last couple of years that has pushed forward, the changes at the speed and the rate that it has made changes is just outstanding. If you see the present scenario, look at it globally, anywhere, you cannot go with what, maybe not your generation, but the way we studied in school, where the entire classroom was teacher centric. So as a teacher, you'd go into class, and it holds true actually even today in a large number of schools and settings where it's the teacher comes, delivers, and is done. Today children can't, it doesn't work like that. If you want to hold your children's interest, you need to not just maybe just come there and deliver. You need to do it in a way that they are interested in coming back and listening to you. There is no other point. And if you see, even in terms of the global scenario, there is so much change. You cannot study, no longer can you say, I'm studying commerce or I'm studying humanities, I'm studying science. It's all about what skills have you developed. It's about the person, the individual. And it's about how can you adapt to this ever-changing scenario. You cannot sit with, earlier, I think our parents, all of us, we've had generations, they got a job, or preferably, I think the Indian mentality was a government job, and you got that, you were done. So once you've got your government placement, you are happy and settled for life. You didn't look at even moving from one job to the other. Later on, I think we are more adventurous like that. We may move from one job to the other, change, looking at, scenarios, prospects, things like that. We don't look at a government job. The private sector looks interesting. So these were changes in the market, and accordingly, you've had people changing. I mean, the trickle down effect comes. But today's, if you want to send your children out there and you want to say that they've been educated, they've learned something, you need to look at what's out there and bring that into schools. Bring that not just into 9th and 10th, but right down from the little ones. From pre-primary onwards, you need to start pushing for skills. So whether it's logical thinking and analyzing, creativity, simply we forget that, there's so much focus on the left side of our brain. We forget about the right side, where so much of, such important skills that we lose out. So I think it has the change that's happening and that we are seeing, that's coming apart. And I think the CBSE to a large context, I mean, it recognizes that, and it is bringing that change. So that's a fantastic, I mean, we can see these changes happening, and we can see people making that effort and bringing that change into schools. So a lot of schools you can see today who, are upgrading, making, like, I think I mentioned Albert Einstein, but one of the most important quotes I remember that he said was, education is not about learning facts, but about training the mind to think. And that is what we need today, thinkers, problem solvers. That's where the crux of the matter is. So I think that's some of the important changes that we have to look at and bring into schools today.
Absolutely, ma'am. So obviously, so education is ever evolving itself is something which obviously we can't have everything related to tradition or traditional way of style in learning, teaching, educating. So it has to change, and it is changing. But I guess it's changing in a very fast pace, as we can see, because all this pandemic, all this new normal has taught us something new. And over I mean instantly, all of a sudden everybody from offline went to online, and the things changed just like that. And we could never have imagined the entire education system to switch on online, and could be a complete success. So uh, I can say that past decade has been evolving, but the change was in the recent past only.
Fast. Tremendous. And you must actually hand it out, because hand it out to the teachers and the parents also, for the fact that a large number, and I'm not talking, see, in the cities, it is still easier because people are more aware. And but look at government schools, look at rural villages, look at every corner of the country. And in a country that is as diverse as India is, to see that they made the change, they made that switching, that in 2 years, that was remarkable. I mean, you have to hand it to everybody at every level. That passion, that effort that came through, that was one of the most drastic changes that I have seen, I think, in my lifetime. But it was a fantastic change to see everybody. It was like a mass movement that happened in at least in the field of education.
Absolutely, ma'am.
So that was
It
one
was
impressive
instant.
change.
It was technological drastic change. It was like just adapting to the whole thing altogether. Who would have thought, you do not have to step outside of your homes, and your school is entering your home actually. I mean, who would have imagined that your parents will be, the one of the students of your class attending along with you, and you could have understanding of what exactly is happening in the class. For parents also, it was a change, to sit with the students for the very first time, attend their sessions, be it both the working parents especially. And it was a shift wherein everybody has evolved in terms of technology has taken a huge shift. Though we talk about a lot of things related to technology, but yeah, people, all of a sudden everybody was on the smartphones, right? From an LKG student to the grandparents, everybody. So that is how people have come up, bringing on to another question, which is how important it is to adapting these changes as an educator.
See, as an educator, of course, as schools, we are always looking at, what can we do? How can we inspire our children? How can we keep them future ready? And that's not an easy task, like I said, to hold a child's interest today. If you are not engaging enough, if you as an educator are not, interesting, you do not bring in that passion for the child or the latest developments, if you are not on top of your game, the children are going to, they are not going to be interested. They will drop or lose their interest in a fraction of a second. So that training teachers to do that is not easy. To keep the teachers on top of the game, that constant training, it's when you've learned something, to unlearn it, to make it more effective, to make it better, is not easy. So bringing in changes is easy, but to bring it from the grassroots level, to bring in everybody, to take them as a, as a movement, a mass movement, it's not easy. So that part is where the hard work comes in, the difficulty in the entire process that lies. So sometimes we have these plans and ideas and you want to take off, but you realize that it's not about one or two people. It's like you need the trainers, the facilitators, who need to also be ready to join you in that movement and move forward. So making that very important. So first and foremost, I think before we bring in changes as an educator, to get the teachers to understand that and make that change, very important to bring that gap in learning. And I think bringing in the latest changes is one of the most to keep you current. Like everywhere, if you see, unless and until you're pushed into it, a lot of places, it's like all of us, unless you have a test, you're not going to study. When the timetable comes in and you're like, okay, now I will prepare. So it's like you need someone to do that pushing for you. But from what I see, today's teachers, everyone, they're there. They want the children's interest. They want to push them. So you can see teachers actually making an effort, looking at like even when you go into the classroom, you don't. Earlier, it was about how many activities can you take. Today, it's not about activities. It is how many different styles of learners do I have in my class. How can I hold each one's interest? How can I take my whole class forward? It's no longer about pushing data or material in. It's not, the point is not about pushing learning in, but to ignite, like you would ignite a spark or a piece of wood. It's igniting that interest or the passion to learn. That is important. I think what we don't realize is if you can just keep that interest in children, as educators, if we can bring in that passion, a simple thing like, have you seen those cartons, Tetra Pak fruit juices? So if you've noticed that earlier, we would have, earlier in the sense, even I think till last year, you'd open that 1 liter Tetra Pak, you had that tab to pull out, and then the seal was broken and you could pour the juice out, or you had to pull that clip and things like that. But today, if you see, a simple logical thing, you turn the screw and it's designed in such a way that it cuts into your sheet below, which breaks the seal of your juice. So all you need to do is turn the screw. So on top, when you turn it clockwise, you've got a mechanism within that goes anti-clockwise and basically cuts into the seal below. So simple, just to identify the problem and to find a solution. I think that is what we should focus on today with children. Get them interested, keeping that spark, getting the spark and children have spark. So what we need to do is to keep that flame, that spark burning, to maybe cultivate it into a fire. Get them that passion to see where is the problem. Oh, there's a problem here. Can I find a solution for this? How can I make this better? How can I make it easier? Problem solving, another important skill. So how can we find a easier, smoother, faster way to do things? And I think children today are ready for that. And that's what we need to as educators. I think it's important. If you're doing physics or you're doing math, connecting it to things like that, I think keeps the interest in children alive. Oh, yes, that works. Why didn't I think of it? So that gets them going to think, what else can I do? So, things like that, I feel as educators, we need to keep that burning, bring that into the classrooms.
Absolutely, ma'am. Very well put it across to, everybody that, there's this every spark, every child has a spark, every child has that fire. It's just how well you can, first of all, identify it and that put it to a right channel. Absolutely, ma'am. So, bringing on to my final question is how to navigate the changing landscapes.
I think NEP is making a fantastic effort when they bring in, with the new national education policy, we are looking at such fantastic changes. So definitely, I think that is a big step in the right move, in the right direction. And awareness, not just, I think, in the changing landscape, if you see, I think more than the children, we need to orient even the parents, because the generation that is there presently, we are still stuck in, we want children to either be a CA, or if it's commerce, they have to do an MBA, or they do medicine or engineering. But the work environment today is so dynamic and it's changing so much. Like, we speak about data analytics being there. Today, it's flooded. By the time our children grow out, analytics is going to be something of the past. No one is going to be looking at that. So there's nothing to say that study for this, study for that. That's one of the reasons I feel that it's very, very important for us to cultivate children's abilities. what are their skills, their abilities. So when we speak, our entire education system, if you see, is focused on the left, on how the left brain functions. So whether it's analysis, solving problems, it's very, very linear. That's what our education focuses on. I think we need to give equal importance even to the right side. So look at their creative aspects. Let them, give them that freedom to think, to analyze, to, like I said earlier, finding solutions. Things like this is what we need to keep going, what our children need today to be able to survive, to make excellent choices in the world tomorrow. So these are things we need children to have that passion to just learn. They want to learn from their heart and not because they're forced into it, not because they want a percentage, not because they have to ace the board exams. So I think focus on skills. If we do that, creativity, skills, these are the things that will help the generations coming forward to be able to survive, to do exceedingly well in whichever field comes up tomorrow. Because there's no longer going to be very clear, precise fields. Of course, we will have certain fields, they're not going anywhere. There will be we will need doctors, we will need engineers, we will need architects, but there are so many other things coming up, so many new fields that we need our children to be able to just adapt and absorb easily. So that's what we will have to look out for and train our children to be able to adapt to these, the future. Keep them future ready, no matter what comes their way. I think that is the most important aspect.
Absolutely, ma'am. So this is how beautifully she's put it together, that we have to be future ready. We don't have to, be, following the same tradition. It's just to follow what could be the new possibility of the new future, the new promises that, the coming time brings in with us and unfolds it. So with this note, I would like to end this session. Thank you so very much, Neha ma'am, for being here and, sharing all these experiences and views about how we can, manipulate things and work in a very positive environment. It was our immense pleasure to have you here, ma'am. And with
Thank
this,
you.
thank you, ma'am. And with this note, I would like to sign off this show with yet another thought of coming up back together with yet, one of the another educators with new viewpoints, new experiences, and new topics to share about. Do subscribe our channel, share, share, like, or hit the bell icon for more notifications. Have a very great evening. Thank you and bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Sakshi.